All right, guys, here we go. Chapter 16, section 8 and 9. We're going to go ahead and push on through. Both of these sections are pretty short, so here we go. Section 8 is going to be on hydrogen. Section 9 is really just sort of wrapping things up. Hydrogen as a renewable energy source. All right. Hydrogen itself, this is the simplest and the most abundant chemical element in the universe. Our stars are largely made up of hydrogen, and then fusing together into helium is what generates nuclear power there. Now, we're not looking at fusing hydrogen as a form of energy, but using it. Once again, it is the most abundant, and we have a lot of it here on Earth, but we don't really find it in its just natural gaseous state. But it is a clean energy source, provided we get it without using fossil fuels. And that really is the trick with hydrogen. H2O, right? 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. Hydrogen here on Earth is basically either trapped in water or some sort of organics, like methane, right? CH4. So we separate methane into carbon and 4 units of hydrogen, or we separate water, 2 units of hydrogen and 1 unit of oxygen. But it's abundant, lots of it here on the Earth, and it's just part of the water cycle. It rolls round and round, but it's a matter of getting it out. And that really is the trick. If we can separate hydrogen from methane or from water without using fossil fuels, it's a pretty clean energy. However, right now, it has a net negative energy. Yeah, negative net energy is not what we want. In other words, it takes more energy to separate the water from the hydrogen to get the hydrogen out than we get out of the hydrogen as an end result. It's clean, but right now it takes too much energy to really use it. And for the most part, we're talking about using fuel cells. Fuel cells combine hydrogen and oxygen. This produces electricity with a waste product of water. This is why it's a clean energy. Its entire waste is water, but we'll look at how that process works here in just a minute. The big question is, will hydrogen save us, right? We're looking for clean, renewable energy sources, and hydrogen has been touted as the answer, the fuel of the future. Now, it does have a lot of advantages. It eliminates almost all outdoor air pollution from burning fossil fuels. If we can burn hydrogen instead of fossil fuels, well, we don't have any waste product. It's water. All that we're putting out the back is water vapor, completely clean. Now, water vapor is a greenhouse gas, but it's just part of the water cycle. We're not putting any more in the atmosphere than really is occurring anyway. It would greatly slow climate change, and it would also slow ocean acidification. We're not putting carbon dioxides, and we're not putting sulfates or nitrates, which also lead to, nitric acid or sulfuric acid. All of that would be eliminated. So pretty strong benefits with it. However, we have these challenges, if you will, we'll look at. It's chemically locked right now into H2O, methane, CH4. There's lots of various things that hydrogen are in. Those are just 2 of the biggies, if you will. So it's a negative net energy. It takes too much energy to extract them. We can do it. It's a fairly simple process. Electrolysis, for one. You just put electric current into water and it'll separate into hydrogen and oxygen. But it takes power to get it out. Fuel cells themselves right now are costly. It's expensive to build a fuel cell. Once again, if you get mass producing, production of that would come down, technology could. And currently, to have this CO2-free hydrogen engine, it all depends on how we're producing the hydrogen. If I'm using current electricity where I'm burning coal or oil in order to take out the hydrogen, well, I'm putting CO2 into the air to get my hydrogen. Now, we hook it up to a wind power, or we hook it up to solar power to pull it out, and we're back to clean energy. But it's all this aspect of renewables. And that's really the deal. Will hydrogen save us? No. but it's probably going to be part of the answer. It's not one of these things. We're not going to put all of our eggs into one basket, as my dad used to say. We're going to spread them out. We're going to be using some solar, some wind, some hydrogen, some water. It's all of it. We're going to use some hydroelectric, some solar, some wind, some geothermal. It's all of it together, which is the deal. It's not just one or the other. We want to bring it all along together so that we switch from our fossil fuels into this array of renewables. That's kind of the good news. Take a look at the picture back here, and here is a diagram about how a fuel cell works. Now, this is the really simple end of it, if you will. Basically, we have an anode on one side and a cathode on the other. It all comes down to getting electricity, right? Electricity is a flow of electrons. Well, the hydrogen gas comes into one end, into the anode, and the positive, the protons, come off and through the electrolyte membrane. Electrolyte, like Gatorade, right? Something that provides the electrolytes. The positives pass through, and the electrons, the flow of electrons, goes up from the anode into the cathode. So the electrons are flowing through. Oxygen's coming in, bonding with the hydrogen, and water is coming out the back as a vapor, water vapor. So it's clean energy. The flow of hydrogen. We just need a source of hydrogen. Once again, we can get that from methane, we can get it from water. So we could theoretically put water in the tank, but something has to generate enough energy to separate it. Or we have to have hydrogen in tanks or something, so I can go to the filling station and put hydrogen in my tank. But in some shape, form, or fashion, we have to get hydrogen in. And as the hydrogen moves through the process, once again, it's a fuel cell with the anode, the electrons, everything built, making it happen. This is, once again, very simple process, but basically what we're after. Now, once again, we've kind of hit on them, talked about it, but our trade-offs, right? Hydrogen, it's plentiful, okay? There's a lot out there. With water, methane, lots of aspects. No CO2 emissions, hydrogen comes in, oxygen comes in, water comes out. It's a good substitute for oil. It's like using gasoline. We can power the same types of things with it. And it's a pretty high efficiency in a fuel cell. Once again, fuel cells. So before I just say fuel cells are expensive, let's look at the negatives. Right now, it's a negative net energy. It takes more energy to separate the hydrogen than we get out of the fuel cell once it's said and done. This is a huge issue. Until we can get the cost down, it's kind of a no-brainer. CO2 emissions right now wind up getting created by creating hydrogen. By and large, we're using electricity. We're burning coal, burning fossil fuels to generate the electricity to separate the hydrogen. So it's not currently a net carbon dioxide zero because we're using electricity to get it. Could be if we're using solar, wind power, other things, which is not currently where we're at. Very high cost, so there would be need for subsidies. The government's going to have to provide subsidies to help make this happen, research, development, all that stuff. Anytime we start requiring subsidies, it's not really a road we want to go down. And we need some sort of hydrogen storage and distribution system. We don't have one. This isn't like the biofuels with oil. It'd have to be a different distribution system entirely. We don't have one. It'd have to be created. So there's some promise to it. And in the future, maybe, but this is something that's probably farther down the road than our wind power, our solar power, our hydroelectric power, geothermal, and even biomass. But it's part of the equation, and that's what we're really looking for. It's all of it. It's not going to be one. It's not going to be this. It's going to be all of it together that's our savior. Not just hydrogen, all of it. Now, 16.9 is a more sustainable energy future. And man, this is what we're after. That's the name of the game in environmental science. Sustainability. This is what we want. You and me together, we can make the transition to a more sustainable energy future in several steps. Number one, reduce waste. Man, this is something you and I can do right now. Put LED lights in, sealing up cracks in our homes. Anyway, a lot can be done to just reduce waste. Reducing waste is free or very, very cheap, and it works well in the long run. We can improve our energy efficiency. If we're just talking vehicles, right now, you can make a choice. I can choose to drive a car that gets 40 miles to the gallon, or I can choose to drive a car that gets 25 miles to the gallon. It's a choice, and the more we choose efficiency, the more energy, the more fuel we save for everybody. We need to use a mix of renewable energy sources. Like I say, it's not going to be one or the other. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. It's all of it. We need to use a mix of it. We need to bring more solar panels online. We need to put more wind power and resources, some offshore, some onshore. It's all of it. Utilizing a mixture of it all together. That's what's going to get us 100% renewable energy, getting us off of the fossil fuels. It's a blend of the whole thing. Of course, with all of this, we really need that smart grid I've talked about. Whenever things come about, should we do something to upgrade our infrastructure into a smart grid? Yeah, that's something we want to check yes. We want to vote yes. We need these. It's paramount to our future of getting to be 100% renewable energy. It's something you and I can see in our lifetimes. We need to include the environmental and health cost in things. Full cost pricing. If we're going to buy gas, we need to pay for the whole cost. What's impacting us health-wise, everything else. The taxes need to be involved because now we're going to have cleanup. So the taxes need to be there so the money's paid, it's already there. It shouldn't come out of our pockets after the fact. It shouldn't be on taxpayers, it should be on who is using the resource. Once again, if gas is $12 a gallon, I guarantee you're going to go out there and you're going to look for a car that's getting 40, 50 miles to the gallon instead of 15 to 20. Yeah, it's just a reality. It's where we need to go. When we shift to this new energy future, right now, China and the United States are key players in this, making the shift. We're both working really hard right now. Currently, the United States and China are using about 20% of the world's energy. The entire world, 20% is coming from us. And we're both currently right now on the front end of trying to make it happen. Some of the important actions that are going to enable it: full cost pricing and taxing carbon emissions. If you have a vehicle that's creating carbon emissions, or you're in a business that's creating carbon emissions, there needs to be taxes on it, plain and simple. If your business is creating more carbon problems, there needs to be a tax on it so that we minimize it. Because once again, once it hits our pocketbooks, then we care. Like I say, gasoline, it's artificially low. Ooh, it's lower at the gas. That's great. Let's go drive more. Well, we need to pay the actual cost. It's a privilege, if you will, right? It's not a right. I don't have a right to do this or that. We need to pay for what it really is instead of paying for it after the fact, putting it on everybody. We need to decrease and eliminate government subsidies, specifically for fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are known. We know how to get them. We know how to make them. It's the industry that is in the fossil fuel business. They keep lobbying to keep the subsidies there. The subsidies need to be shifted to research in better solar technology, better batteries, better wind power. That's where the subsidies need to go. We've already paid the subsidies to the fossil fuels. They make their money. They're just continuing to keep us there. They want their profits. Hey, I get it. They're trying to turn a buck. But I'm interested more than some company getting a better profit share. I'm interested in us having a renewable future. I'm interested in a sustainable future for all of us. So let's shift the subsidies to where it's really needed. We need to have a mandate that a certain percentage of our electricity generated by utility companies comes from renewable resources. That's not hard. Hey, you need to have 40%. By 2030, you need to be 50% on renewable. By 2050, you need to be 90%, whatever. We've got to have a percentage. If we have a percentage to shoot for, we're a lot better off to hit it than if we don't have one. Because guys, if you don't know what you're aiming for, you're never gonna hit it. Let's go ahead and put them down there. Let's put it on the books. We want to have 30% of our energy in Gainesville coming from renewables by 2030. We want to have 50% by 2035. It's doable, but it's a matter of having a goal that we work for. But we've got to write it up, we've got to specify it. And we need to increase government fuel efficiency standards, period. We need to demand that our vehicles have higher gas mileage. It's possible, it's easy, it's doable, but we need to have some sort of demands on it. There's zero reason to have a car on the road that you're driving to get to work, etc., that's getting less than 35 miles to the gallon. They should be more like 50. We have the technology to do it. Cars are on the road right now. Mine is an electric vehicle. I get the equivalent of 130 miles to the gallon. This aspect of having a car that gets 25 miles to the gallon just because I want to go, those days need to end. We've got to set some standards and we've got to meet them. Things you and I can do right now, it's not difficult. Walk when you can. You can't walk everywhere. You're not going to walk 5 miles to here and there, but if something's a half mile away, walk to it. Walk to school, get on a bike, do some bike riding. Live in a town where things are close, walk when you can. Drive things that have better gas mileage. When you go to buy a car, that should be a key point that you look at. I want one with a good gas mileage rating. The higher, the better. It saves fuel for everybody. Have an energy audit done on your home. Have somebody come in and check. Where are your leaks? Do you need better insulation? Anything you can save money, you can become more efficient. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's one of the best things we can actually do. Use passive solar heating. When you go to buy a house, make sure you're getting one that's oriented in the right way so that you're taking advantage of passive solar heating. It's very inexpensive. You need to have some good insulation, but we should all have good insulation in our house. That's just a no-brainer, if you will. When it comes time to cool your house, when you can, open the windows, run a fan. You don't need to use air conditioning all the time. Most countries in the world don't use air conditioning at all. I lived in areas that were hot all the time. Boy, when my family was in New Orleans for graduate school, we didn't use an air conditioner. Everybody's like, what do you mean? Well, 50 years ago, nobody had air conditioner there. It's just what we've gotten used to. Get used to living without it when you don't need it. Hey, I'm not saying if it's 95 degrees out there, don't use your air conditioner. But when it's 82 degrees out there, you probably don't need it. When it's 75, you definitely don't need it. Try and use the fan sometimes. Use a programmable thermostat. Get one of these smart thermostats. You can program it. So when you're gone, we're at work all day, nobody's at the house. Well, the air conditioner doesn't need to be running full blast, so it can come down. Get a programmable thermostat. It'll save you money and it'll save lots of energy. Turn down the water heater. A lot of people have their water heater cranked up really too hot. You don't want it so hot it would burn you. Put it down to around 110 to 120. If you've got it around 130, 135, you're wasting money. It's not necessary. About 110 degrees is about as hot as you can stand on your hands. Beyond that, you start to get burned. Get the water heater down some. Turn off your lights, your TV, all of these things. Don't put them on standby, actually shut them down. Saves a lot of energy. And if at all possible, wash your laundry on cold. Check it out. Run a little science experiment. We found out in our house, we've tried it several times, the laundry detergents these days are so good, it doesn't matter if it's on hot or cold, they get just as clean. Save the energy. Don't use the hot water cycle. I don't know, there might be some special reason you need to, but as a general rule, wash your clothes on cold, they'll get just as clean. Some of our big ideas from this chapter, just kind of looking at things and wrapping it up. We need to take actions that are going to make our economies more sustainable. And environmental science, that's the name of the game, sustainability. We need to reduce our use of fossil fuels, especially coal, and it's the dirtiest of all of them out there. We need to increase our efficiency, our energy efficiency. Once again, getting LED light bulbs, reducing waste, better gas mileage, all that stuff. We need to increase our efficiency. Some of that you and I can do right now. Some of it is technology coming in. You guys going out there getting jobs, working for the car factories and companies, raising these efficiencies. Man, that's where it's at. 43% of our energy is going to waste. Claim it back. Better efficiency. Use a mix of renewable energy resources. Once again, sun and wind especially. And once again, hydro, wind, and sun. They really all come from the sun, right? But let's take advantage of those. It goes back to one of our principles, using solar energy as much as possible. To make this energy shift, important economic and environmental benefits to all of us. The more we move towards the renewables, the better off we all are. It's going to create jobs, guys. It's going to take the energy down. Our air is going to be cleaner. It'd be better health. There's no lose in going to renewables. We've just got to work to make it happen and all get on the same page. Guys, that's it. Chapter 16. I know it's been a long one, but man, it's an important chapter. Take care, and we'll see you next time.